In today's video, I'm going to be answering some of your questions that you've submitted to me via my social media channels. I've selected what I feel is a broad range of topics for this question and answer, so I do apologise if I haven't selected yours. There were quite a number to choose from this time. Please don't be put off or disheartened. I will try and include them in my next question and answer video if I can, but please do ask me on my social media links. I'll be happy to try and answer them on there. So that's the comment boxes below. Like my page on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, and as I said, do go ahead and ask me questions on there. I am in the gazebo this evening to answer your questions, which is new in the garden, and I am taking shelter, as you can probably see and hear from around me, Storm Brian, which is impacting the UK at the moment. It's still very much ongoing outside. It's very, very windy here. So I do apologise if any of this video sounds a bit muffled or a bit windy. Without further ado, I'm going to start answering some of your questions, and I do hope that this video provides great help to those of you that asked them and to everyone else that's viewing this at home. Let's get started. So, first question, here we go. What would be suggested, or what would be your suggestions for organic vegetables and fruits for enclosed spaces, so provide a high yield but potential lack of soil? Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know that I have quite a difficult veg plot. It's very, very small. It's also right next to a big Leylandii hedge, which is obviously drawing water and nutrients from that plot all the time. So it is definitely doable. What I would recommend is where you have got very limited soil, or it's very poor soil, is to just feed. So I have introduced over a number of years quite a lot of composted farmyard manure. This is packed full of really great nutrients and is really beneficial to the soil. It's natural, it's organic, and it's really helped that veg plot to really thrive, and I can now grow all sorts in there on very poor, very difficult soil. In terms of the vegetables that you can grow, obviously you've also got container gardening. So if you do have a balcony even, so you're totally soilless in your home, you can still grow vegetables very, very easily. Things like chilies, peppers, they produce an abundance of fruit, very easy to look after, can grow in containers very, very well. Things like salad leaves, lettuces. I would probably stay away from some of the larger and root veg, such as carrots and beetroots, because they need that larger space in the soil to actually grow and produce properly, so I'd stay away from those. Things like squashes and pumpkins that require a lot more space, I would stay clear of, because they're just going to take over. If you do have a bit more space, you can actually get container fruit trees as well. Just make sure you're choosing a dwarf rootstock to go in those pots. The key thing to remember when growing in containers as well is to water them regularly, especially during dry weather in the summer. My recommendation would be, if you are struggling, is to pick up a book like this. This is the Royal Horticultural Society's Grow Your Own Crops in Pots book. It's one that I use quite a lot if I'm stuck on something or wondering what to grow. This provides a whole array of different plants that you can grow in small spaces. What can grow in a container, I would argue, can grow in some quite tricky soil situations as well, as long as they're watered and fed. So watering, feeding and picking the right variety would be my take-home points from that, really, but it's definitely doable, and don't be put off by the fact that you don't have much space or your soil is very poor. It's certainly doable. Next question, it would be, this one says, "Hi Jack, I wonder if you could talk about your career path so far to motivate and inspire my young horticulture students." I would absolutely love to do that, but I think it requires a little bit more time than we've got in this video. What I'll do is I'll film a separate video for this, because I think it deserves more time. I'm very passionate about my career. I feel that I've been very, very lucky, and I do want to share that and motivate people. It's a hugely rewarding career, and I think for that reason it deserves its own standalone video. So do make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss that. I'll be filming that over the next couple of days, and I hope to have it out very, very soon. Okay, so this next question is, how are you finding the M-Hort? Now, for those of you who don't know what the M-Hort is, that is the RHS Master of Horticulture. It's regarded as the Royal Horticultural Society's most prestigious qualification that they can award. My understanding is that it's a level 6, so it's equivalent to a BSc in science or something like that, so a level 6 qualification. I'm enjoying it. It's quite different to what I thought it would be. Essentially what it is you have 3 days of module launches a year, effectively, and what they are is where you get to sit down with your fellow classmates, which you don't get to see otherwise, and also sit down with your tutor and discuss the upcoming unit. So they give guidance on the assignments, and they give guidance on any exams. So this year is my second year. I have exams coming up in February, rather worryingly, but the tutors are there. It's all done online, so you're sent away from your module launches, you then research, you get on with your assignments. It's all distance-based learning, which is great because it means people from all walks of life and all over the country can take part in the Master of Horticulture. But I find sometimes it's quite difficult because you don't necessarily have peers like you would do at university doing a normal degree that you can share ideas with. There are forums, but it's just not as convenient as that. But all that aside, I think it's a really great qualification. It's something that I've wanted to do for most of my horticultural career, and I am enjoying it. I'm learning a lot from it. It's increasing my writing skills, it's increasing my knowledge of not just horticulture, but of business management, of economy, of what's actually going on in the horticulture industry. I think it's a really good real world kind of course. It's taking into account everything that's happening right now, and you're building that into your assignments and things, which I think is really, really good. You have a full-time job that you don't want to give up to go and do a degree. It's a fantastic option, and for me, giving up my job is just not an option. So I need to make sure that I'm still studying and learning, but also I'm earning as well. So it's a great way to couple that, and I think for anyone that is in that situation and perhaps is considering doing the Master of Horticulture, definitely go for it. Give it a go. You can spread it out over 5 years if something comes up, so you can defer units and things like that. It's really, really flexible. I've got the rest of this year and then a third year, which is my dissertation year, to go. And as I said, I've got exams coming up. This is about plants. I left my Japanese maple in part shade, and it hasn't grown much because of a brief drought that we had, and it lost a lot of leaves. It's not in the slightest bit sunny, but next year I would like to prevent it, and they now need it to pick up the pace of its growth if there is something that can be done now. So Japanese maples are notoriously quite fussy when it comes to sunlight required and also watering. Now, I'm guessing from what I can glean from this, if you can move it, it might be in a container, I don't really know the specifics. During this period of drought, what's happened is it's obviously dried out, and unfortunately what happens when acers dry out is they literally, the leaves curl up and they drop off and they can get scorched very easily. Now, I'd probably say because it's in partial shade, you've got it in the right position, but if it's in a pot, it might have dried out easier, or the soil might just have generally dried out. I mean, we had some very, very hot periods this summer where the rain just didn't come for days on end. Now, I think it'll probably be fine. There's nothing much you can do for it now anyway. Leaf fall is well underway, so it's best just to let any remaining leaves fall off. The plant should then come back next spring. One thing to be aware of for the spring is if the leaves start coming out early and we get a frost, that will also damage them. So if the leaves come out earlier, you can see leaves coming out on it, and we are due a frost or a late frost, my recommendation would be to fleece it just to protect those new leaves. As we move through the year, make sure if it's in a pot or in the ground really, and we have a dry spell, that it's being kept watered. Now, to accelerate the growth, again, the tree is dormant now, so it's not using any nutrients at the moment. I would suggest feeding it when you see the first new leaves come out next spring. That will encourage great growth next year, a stronger plant overall, and will really benefit it. And you can do that sort of once a month. I feed my containerised acers here about once a month, just a general balanced shrub feed, so something like Vitax Q4 or chicken manure pellets or something like that, just to give an all-round kind of boost to the plant. I wouldn't worry too much about moving it personally. I think you've got it in the right place there. Partial shade or even shade is quite good for them. So leave where it is, feed in the spring, keep on top of the watering next year, and I think you'll be absolutely fine, and your acer will continue to thrive for many, many seasons to come. Don't forget also, if it's in a container, to put it into something larger if you do think it's getting too big. That is going to really, really help, so don't forget that as well. Next question. This one is about hydrangea cuttings not producing any roots. So, my experiences from this are hydrangeas do root in water, but it's very, very, very slow. It is a method that people have used to propagate hydrangeas, but it just takes a long time. From what I've heard, it can take sometimes 2 to 3 months even to produce roots. What I would suggest is keep changing the water as regularly as you remember, ideally once a week, just to keep it fresh. and then you should see roots start to develop eventually. If you are wanting to create cuttings and root them faster, get some rooting hormone or rooting powder and actually put them into some containers of soil, place a plastic bag, clear plastic bag, over the top and make sure they keep moist. You'll probably get roots and growth quicker than you would in a jar of water, purely because the rooting hormone on that is going to promote growth, the soil stays moist for longer and there's more nutrients and things in there to encourage growth. So change the water when you remember, keep persevering with it. If the cutting is still looking green and healthy, I think you have got a good chance of roots appearing, but it's just going to take that little bit longer. And now on to the final question. So I've really rattled through those to try and keep this as short and as punchy as I can. Raspberries in tubs. Sawfly has infested next year's growth of the canes. I have sprayed with an insecticide. How should I deal with the damaged and skeletal leaves which remain? Well, raspberries can be affected by various different types of sawfly. It's very difficult to say which one it is for sure. Your insecticide will have helped deal with the problem in the first instance and actually get rid of any of the sawfly larvae that's on there. The skeletal leaves that remain, there's not a great deal that you can do with them. Raspberries are of course deciduous anyway, and at this time of year, although they are holding on to their leaves longer this year because it's so mild, they'll be coming off shortly. I would just make sure you rake all of those leaves up and dispose them into your general waste. Don't put them in your compost heap or don't leave them around the plants as best you can, purely because if there's any overwintering nasties in there, that's going to come up and affect your plants straight away. You could spray again next year. Obviously, be careful when spraying insecticides, particularly on edibles. Make sure that your insecticide specifically states that it is for use on edibles and specifically for use on raspberries and also specifically for use on sawfly. There are so many different chemicals out there. A lot of them are quite nasty to beneficial insects, and also those pesticides and those nasties in that will actually stay in your fruit as well. So you need to be very, very careful what you're spraying on your raspberry, and you must read the instructions on any insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides that you're using, especially on edible crops. So that's all the questions that I've selected for this question and answer video. As I said, I've kind of rattled through them. I wanted to try and get as many of them in as I could whilst keeping the video nice and short. As I mentioned earlier, if I haven't answered your question, please follow me on my social media links and ask me on there, or ask in the comment box below, and I'll be happy to help where and when I can. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much for watching.